order the special board meeting for September 12th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Take a roll call.
Yep. Robert DePalma.
Here.
Janelle Keller. Here. Teresa Bills. Here. Jim Christopher.
Here.
Gina Mazzarelli. Here.
Okay. Short agenda today, but we got 3 items, and the first one is really the one that we want to get squared away on, and that's talking about a potential tech park consultation contract. And for those of you who don't know, it's Senator Matt Danaskis and his son Justin, and we've done work with them before. They were extremely, I can't emphasize how effective they were in getting a nasty problem done. And in all honesty, they didn't even charge us for that, but it was the problem getting the easement behind the consumer power building. We worked on that for 1.5 years, and consumers just gave us the runaround. Senator Danaskis has some excellent contacts and kind of got to the top of the tree there and made a couple of calls, and the next thing we knew, we had our easement. So thank you very much for that. And so he's been very effective, and I am a great believer that in trying to get some things done, you need people that have the right kind of resources or connections. That's why we picked Tom Z for the promotions on it, because he's the one who rents the park all the time and knows every single person that's in the business or aftermarket business for any of them. And in this particular case, I thought, since most of you know I spend what I would call an inordinately long time keeping that park project moving as we've assembled the different players and getting the different parts that we're getting ready so we can really go to market hard on it. And in the discussions I've had with both of them in the past, they wanted to know if there were some places where we could maybe use them for consulting services, and we looked at it once before. We didn't do it, but as you know, I'm leaving in 2 months and 8 days, so. But who's counting, right? So, and I've discussed this, with Kevin, and I said it might be worthwhile because as the new supervisor, you got a lot of things you got to get under your belt first to do the regular supervisor job. So I thought it is critical to the long-term security of the township, the financial security of it, that park get executed within the time frames that I have laid out in the original budget sessions the last 2 years. So with that said, I'd like to turn it over to you. I believe you're doing
thank you.
pitch today.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor. Right here? I know.
Yep.
The best place to stand. Let me back to the audience. Yeah, you're going to say a little bit, a little better. Yeah, there we go. So thank you, Supervisor DePalma. I appreciate it. I'm Justin Danaskis, along with Senator Matt Danaskis, and our firm is Danaskis Consulting Development. We're a government and public affairs lobbying consulting organization. And we do work at the federal, state, and local level on behalf of an array of clients, both public and private. The public ones being municipalities otherwise, but also nonprofits, private organizations, and the like. And as Supervisor DePalma had mentioned, we've had the opportunity to kind of get to understand Groveland Township and the fabric of the community a little more over the last couple of years. Is after the supervisor called Senator Mann, mentioned they had a little issue with consumers' energy, and Matt was able to come in along with our team, understand kind of what the township was up against, and the supervisor outlined, through some effective hand-holding, advocacy, getting to the right individuals, in a relatively speedy manner resolve that issue. And then we started understanding more what makes kind of Groveland very unique and special, and what the supervisor and this board and others have done to really diversify its revenue sources and have multiple lines of revenue on top of what most municipalities think of is really kind of taxing their citizens or their commercial base. And Groveland Township kind of has a void, if you will, in the sense of there isn't really much of a commercial and industrial corridor or a lot of those tenants, and so the township doesn't have that benefit from taxing them and pulling those dollars in for their operating budget. But it's because of the innovation, the foresight of the township with these other revenue sources being able to thrive in a lot of the service you provide. So we thought, wow, that's really unique what they're doing here. And it aligns a lot with what we do for other clients. We do a lot of economic development work for clients, regulatory reform, and so forth. And we said, wow. And then along came the Minds of Oakland. We said, oh wow, well this is right up our alley. We think we can definitely provide value add, assist the township as they embark on this new endeavor and creating new lines of revenue sources, mainly through land lease and otherwise. And it really kind of excites us, and that's why we're here today to kind of tell you a little bit more about service we think we can help. And it's that innovation that we want to, continue and really be that constant cheerleader and quarterback to help drive the project along through our effective advocacy, relationships, and looking also for additional funding sources to really assist the project. Because we really feel that the township has positioned the project in a great light. You have a great plan with the marketing that's initially been done, the concept plans, working with the private sector, in this case Barry Bass, because this isn't wholly owned by the township, so we really have some different components. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done just in phase 1, let alone 2, 3, and 4, to make the project come to fruition. You had a great plan in the start, and a long road ahead with a lot of work and some hurdles, and that's where I think we can really be a value add to the township and its residents. And specifically, as we kind of look at the development of the project, well, first, gotta get it going. You're gonna need an access drive, right? You're gonna need an entrance to the property. You're gonna have to navigate through the property. You need roads. Want to connect to the ORV park, obviously, is that we think is a major component and strategic piece to really anchor some tenants and tie into the ORV park. Infrastructure, be it flat work, underground work, utilities, all this needs to be done. And that's where we can help be that consummate kind of cheerleader pushing the project along, also while looking for incentives, grants, and dollars for these different endeavors. I'll give you an example. So for like interior roads, instead of, which we'll look at like, Open County Road Commission and some of these other revenues or departments, but also outside the box. The Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, MDARD, we've been able to leverage them in other areas with some federal dollars to get 80% grant dollars for interior road development, so site ready for the work, right? So now we're really talking where, let's say the township had budgeted, I'm just picking over $200,000 for roads for interior. Well, shoot, if we can get 80 cents on the dollar, now we do 4 or 5 times as many roads, or shift those dollars elsewhere. So how can we get really the most out of every step of the project, and what incentives, grants are out there, and then how can we help further connect to the private sector and bring the project to fruition? Because this really is a public-private partnership with your own partner, Barry Bass, in this case, in the property he has, but also your end tenants, right? So we'll assist and with the attorneys too, so we'll have to get a development agreement in place with Barry. Roles and responsibilities will have to be laid out on both sides, timelines, so there's accountability, and it's great that the township has wonderful working relationships with a lot of its partners, meaning Barry and others, but people change, seats change. You want to make sure that nothing's lost in translation, or someone forgets, or when the new person comes in a seat, public side or private side, maybe they have a different idea, interpretation of what's supposed to be done or not, what their roles and responsibilities are, right? Because this isn't going to be done in a year, 2 years. It's going to take some time to build out this project. In just getting phase 1 down, the good news is the building blocks are there, but a lot of that work has to be done, which I just outlined. But even going to phase 2.0, we'll call it, not more than I would hesitate to say 15% of the project could even come to fruition as of today, because there's not enough power on the site and other pieces, right? So we really have to continue that forward thinking, work with that covenant utility, Consumers Energy, and others to secure power for the development. Without power, the development's not going to go very far, likely, because you should look at traditional industrial, other users, you're going to need some form of power and capacity, even if it's a light manufacturer or something. The power needs, the demands, and what's there, definitely going to need a lot more. And then there's also other exciting things that are coming for the project that we can further leverage, like the roundabouts for Grange Hall Road. How can we get other dollars to match there, take those dollars further, so it works best for the township in this development to get the most out of it, right? So those are the kind of incentives and things we'll look to do, is be it if it's something that's already secured or new dollars we can bring in, and driving the project forward for project management to make sure that, the township, its residents are informed, and that the project's moving forward and we're getting the most out of it and pulling these various resources as the project goes forward. So that's kind of
one thing I can just interject. The 2 big issues are money for roads is extremely expensive, and getting significant power increases is expensive. And so in the case of consumers, they've been very effective. So I know they know the route to get it there. And on the roads, there's so much money tied up in that. I have found in the past when we try and do grants, really, if you don't have the right person writing the grant with the key phrase or magic word they're looking for. We found that when we did some of the fire department grants for safer, and there were a couple of key phrases that had to be in there, or you're just not gonna get it. And I think that's the same thing that's gonna happen here. They have access to grant writers that know that, and there's nobody here, I think, that actually could say, ooh, we've got experience in doing that, or might get it done. So, and I think the key is, I made a couple of runs on the energy trying to go through the normal channels with consumers. And you can carry on a great conversation with the wall and get just about as far. Now, I know from a couple of ideas that your dad and I had bounced around originally when we talked about this, that there were some possibilities that you came up with that I hadn't thought of, that I think have some potential benefits. So I can't emphasize enough that regardless of how we do this project, I think we need somebody with that kind of expertise to figure out how to leverage grants for power and roads in particular. And the rest of it is a constant, you probably heard me in the office, pushing multiple ropes up a ladder to keep the project going, because every day there's 2 or 3 things that come up that you don't anticipate. You just have to kind of work on it. So, I'm sorry.
Exactly. No, I
But I
appreciate
couldn't
that.
have
Thank you. It's
explained it better
exactly
than
it.
you did.
Exactly. No, perfect. No, exactly it. And then having the foresight too is where, again, this is not a, a 6-month project or 1 year to make work come to fruition. Then knowing what grants may be coming up, what these departments want, then how can they write it so it fits for the township and this projects and other side too. Obviously, we'll be looking at the existing grants, incentives, and programs, but then also within those, they're refreshed, there's new dollars that come out. Well, how can we at the drafting table say, listen, over here in the center of it all in Oakland County, we're a day's drive from everywhere, this is where you need to put some dollars for that economic development. It's exactly what you're thinking, just with this tweak and it fits for us. And so that's where we've also been very effective over the years too, is by having those eyes and ears in Lansing and elsewhere in the halls where you see dollars and stuff, and wait a minute, with a little tweak, this can work exactly for what we need, and it fits exactly along with what the regulators or legislators are thinking with a little tweak, because obviously, back to Bob's point, we want to make sure that the grant's written correctly, and with the size and scopes of the dollars actually do come down back to the community where we want them. And so we also had sent it along, I know probably any chance to really look at it, but our agreement and so forth, so any further thoughts, questions on what I've shared so far, or love to hear any ideas, thoughts, or comments folks may have.
Well, I think it was structured so it was like a year at a time and just renew it as we go.
Correct.
And I think that's good for us, because when we looked at the original development of the project, we said there were really 3 possible ways we could attack the scope of the whole project. In part because of the energy shortage, because I think I told you I had a laser plant all lined up for it. And so Edison told them they wanted $500,000 to be able to plug it in.
Yeah.
Basically, okay? And so I think that gives us an opportunity, because we're starting off kind of tackling it with going after some of the off-road park users as potential tenants first, so their demands are a little slower, we can get started on it. But at some point in time, if one of the mega accounts, which we have the last mega site in Oakland County, comes through that we've been talking to, they're going to need huge quantities of electricity. Computer farms and stuff data centers do not get installed with a limited amount of electricity. And there are some creative ideas, I think, that we have bounced around before that could lend us some extra leverage with the utility. That's where I think we really have some positive push. So they could keep the project rolling after I'm gone, because somebody's got to push all the ropes up the ladder, for lack of a better phrase, and they could adjust it with the potential contacts we need to see if we could start working on some dollars for some of the grants and stuff. That's how we make. I think that's how we typically end up making our dollars go a lot farther. So I like the year, and then when we see what we're getting out of it, we keep it rolling if it's working.
So my first question is, looking at the scope of work, we would be entertaining this whether you were leaving or not. Does everybody agree with that?
I think you would have to entertain it, because I think we need their contacts for things like the grant part of it, yes. There are clearly some parts here that they would be doing that I think would allow Kevin to focus on the other part of the supervisor's job for a while while they're doing this. But to answer your question, irrespective of whether I was leaving or not,
I think we need their help. They just broadened the scope a bit on this, I think, to make it a little bit easier. And I think it's a good idea.
Okay, and we would limit ourselves to just consumers.
No, certainly not.
Thank you.
ITC, we got a whole bunch of them coming
Okay.
utilities that we work with.
There are a lot of them we
I just like to
love,
pick
right?
on them because, yeah, that's right.
No, that's good. I wanna hear
Cogeneration,
that.
as well as some other innovative
Okay.
ideas, and as Bob alluded to, Supervisor DePalmer, excuse me, some other leverage points too. How can we be value add back to those incumbent utilities? How can we be good partners or at least show good faith to hopefully leverage that and get what we need for the development?
And what does your communication look like?
So we work with our clients, it depends, we have a lot of our clients who do weekly or bi-weekly meetings depending on the scope. We do in-person meetings monthly for certain clients, and then there's always email, and the phones are always on, so.
And they go to all?
Correct, yeah, all, so we don't just isolate it, so everyone's informed, unless there's subcommittees or certain things, hey, I don't wanna be bothered with this, that's gonna be for, they get the supervisor, whoever, but yes, thank you, good question. And then we like to do that, we get Zoom or face-to-face, we're Oakland County based, over in Oxford, so we're not far, so we like face-to-face as well, but, things move and go at certain paces, right? Sometimes, no one hit the gas when let off, so sometimes it'll be nonstop, some communication all the time, other times, hey, we're working on this, so.
I consider both very good at being proactive, because we were texting last night, I think, at about 9 o'clock.
Yeah, no,
At about 8:30 this morning, so.
I'm not
they're good
doubting
about
that,
getting back.
but because of the nuances that are coming
Yeah.
out, and federally as well, I think everybody gets the communication, at least for a while.
Yeah, certainly.
I think that's gonna be huge. I don't know how you guys feel, you can opt out, but I'd wanna read it. And then lastly, in your contract, as far as, your, reimbursements, how, is there a threshold before you ask us, hey, we need to go out to, I don't know where, and check this out?
Certainly,
Okay.
yeah. And the nice thing is, again, we're up the street, so that we don't really anticipate much extra reimbursement above beyond the contract. We'd probably talk about ahead of time in a quarterly meeting or somewhere, to say, hey, let's go to this conference, Tom's gonna go too, we think this would be good, or the county has this coming up, we should get a booth, or whatever the scenario is. So, great question, and so I can honestly say, and ask other municipal clients or clients, it's there, you pretty much know what's coming, because we talked about it ahead of time, and really, there's not much overnight travel in Michigan or much else.
Well, just
so.
with anybody else, we have a threshold that they have to get
Oh,
our
sure,
approval
yeah.
first,
Yeah,
so,
we can-
I think that's a.
Yeah.
If we do this, a good initial meeting would be to have some of the key partners we pick, because, you're right, there's a trade show coming up that we went to last year at the county, and it's coming up again
Yeah.
this year, and our real estate broker is going to at this
Yeah.
time with me, and Tom is going to the SEMA convention and stuff. So, the material that we're going to be putting together is going a lot of places, and there's a number of meetings that I think it would be good to have everybody on the same sheet of paper initially, kind of start out with a meeting so everybody knows what's going on,
Yeah.
who all the players are.
Yeah, we love doing that initial, we'll call it an onboarding meeting with all the stakeholders, relatively speaking, or sometimes it starts with the board, and then we expand it to the stakeholders. That's typically why we have to, like to onboard a client, get everyone on the same page for things like communications, make sure, we have clear lines of roles and responsibilities and communications, so, yeah. So yes, I don't know if you have a standing, think there is or not, but, definitely love to do a stakeholder meeting if we can engage and move forward.
I have an operational question. Say we embrace you folks and we have a Zoom meeting. I'm trying to phrase it properly. Do we have any considerations to the Open Meetings Act with that?
Only if a quorum is present.
Well, I assume it would be.
And if there is a quorum present, we would just need to make sure that it was,
Hosted properly.
we cannot participate via Zoom if a quorum is present.
Right.
That's if we're just making
Decisions,
decisions.
right.
What if it's just informational?
Informational.
Briefings.
I think that's a really fine line.
But you have to show intent to violate the Open Meetings Act for you to get, for it to be invalid.
Well, it has to be, I'm just saying, if there's a quorum present, then it has to be publicly accessible, whether or not we are voting on something. So it would need to be a Zoom that was available to the public. But even then, we are not supposed to legally participate in a Zoom meeting for a meeting. The only exception to that, yes, the only
Yeah.
exception to that is if you are military.
And so, yeah, as long as
Good
there's not
question.
policy decisions being made, so make sure if there was to be a Zoom, I'll just chime in my 2 cents. We find is very the informative. Okay, hey, for this meeting, I want to bring in this person to tell you about, their expertise and when they developed it, and here's an end user. And so really it's informative, you know the agenda ahead of time, that way everyone's clear and comfortable if they're fine with that format for the Zoom, because hey, we're just talking with ABC Corporation and ABC developer to learn about that. We're not voting to let the developer build something or what have you, but obviously err on the side of caution, so.
Yeah.
And that would be where we talked about Facebook Live.
Right,
Yeah.
something that would make it publicly accessible, and you can always still have meetings even with a quorum as long as you note that a quorum may be present.
Yeah.
So there are just some lines, we just have to make sure we were following.
Do you have any history with municipalities where that's come up?
Hazel Park, and particularly some of, I'm thinking of the COVID times and so forth, but it was very commonly used when we had different rules at that time, so we never
Yeah.
really had an issue. And every once in a while, to err on the side of caution, we'll do a round robin meeting, say it's a board of 5 here, you just do 3 and 3. But that was more for talking policy or an ordinance, just to be safe. Typically, very informational and so forth, we're not making a policy or meeting decision. It's fine to get together, just like everyone can go to the local fair and, meet up and, what have you. But, so to answer your question, just mainly during COVID times, and it was publicized, so not as much,
You have a special, you're right. Okay.
Okay, do we have any more questions here?
Thanks. No?
Oh, I'm sorry. Kevin, I'm curious your perspective on it, because this would be something you would be dealing with after I'm gone.
How do I wanna say this? My perspective is totally financial. And if these guys can secure some funds to spend their fee, if they can bring in 5 times that, I'm no mathematician, but winner.
And we know bigger is better, right?
I understand that, so if they can help procure funds, to me, that's huge.
And I say this because I know there's got to be some, and it's not just the funds, the other part I like about it is they do look at stuff with a little bit different twist, and sometimes when you're trying to figure out, most of the things we've done in the township for money, they're not standard deals anymore.
Yeah.
None of them are. They've all been kind of piecing together, well, what if we do it this way, and it's worked for us. And that's the aspect I like. If I can give an example.
Thank you.
When Matt and I were talking, I said, I'm having a problem getting enough quantifiable large electrical service in here. And he said, but they have a lot of problems in utilities because they have to meet some goals for the state. And they said, yeah, we have that huge strip on the one side of the township's property where the ITC power grid is that we can't do anything with. It's our property, but it's all easement for them. I find it hard to believe why somebody couldn't convince Consumer Power with ITC why we couldn't put a field array in there, because we can't do anything else with it. It's away from everybody and help them meet some of their green generation without disturbing anybody else, like some of the other projects, okay? And those are the kind of creative ideas that you need to have come in, and sometimes they don't work, but you need to have them popping in to make sure you're taking a look at it, and when you talk to the right people, I have to believe there's a way to do it. For example, when I went to this trade show last year in Oakland County, there's a company that makes gas-powered turbines that they use for generating electricity. And out in the west side of the state, they had a big manufacturer that moved in, didn't have enough power, and they put 3 of these turbines in a building outside, made their own powerhouse for it. And the utility company that's in the township that it's attached to said, wow, we like this so much, you're making electricity for less than we're getting it for, so can we buy that and we'll make it part of our utility here, because the local utility is the municipality. Those are the kinds of things that I think either will frankly help the utility company, for lack of a better phrase, see the data like why we need some help on getting the power in there, or if we have to, find an alternative way to bring it in. I did this once. I don't wanna make Groveland the gas company, because that was a 3-year project that was all consuming to put natural gas in here when they wouldn't do it, right? And, but we proved the utility then that we could get the vote support to become a utility in order to make that project happen, and so we turned up 700 homes in 2 years. It's that kind of pressure, I think, that can make a utility understand, you know, these ideas can work, you just have to be a little creative about how you do it. And to do that, you've usually gotta get high enough up in the totem pole to make sure that the right people here can see the vision you're going for, because I don't think we're out of whack here. We're not the only people that have the area that don't have power, and I can tell you in Groveland, there's a significant shortage of available electric power. So they kinda piece and bubble gum it together as they go, and in the case of the company I had that wanted to put the laser mills out here, they wouldn't start until they wrote them a check for about $480,000, I think it was, you know. Well, the guy ended up going down the road at the end of Telegraph in Pontiac to an old GM site that had a ton of capacity that nobody was using. You didn't have to spend $500,000 to get it. So, we need that kind of expertise, and I think there are big dollars and a significant benefit for us. Even as we go down the road, part of the problem with the sewer project is, you know, we had the county pony up the money for the capacity, but that only means you have something to plug the pipe into, okay? You still have to get all the pipes that come down, and that's expensive. And so, again, most of that in the 70s was done with federal grants. So there might be some alternative to be able to be used in that too. There's the 3 areas where I think we could have the biggest benefit, probably in big dollars, would be if we could get some money for sewer expansion that we otherwise wouldn't have, and the water department's well aware of that. And Brian Colburn's, I think, biggest chore in life is to figure out how to make that project work and come up with the money. And he's been pretty damn good at it so far. You know, and for us, the electric and the roads, I mean, we get that, we're kind of home free. I mean, the rest, the site is good, we've had a lot of interest in it, and a lot of people have come by. We need to make it now look like something's developing in there, as soon as we're done with it, so. I think this is a good proposal, I think it's on a good time frame. I think it's fairly low risk for us to do it.
You two, I've got a question, everyone chime in. If you haven't heard, we have the rare pleasure of having a battery storage facility muscle into the township.
That's if you live under a rock.
Yeah.
Read any of the paper or Facebook, right?
In what I perceive you're gonna be doing for us, I think you're going to be mixing shoulders with some of the decision makers. Any possibility that we get moved with questions from you to our township property here for a double benefit?
I mean,
Well, I mean, we posed it to, when they first came to us, I said, you know, the power line you're tying into is right on my property in the township. Why don't you move it over here?
And that was what I was alluding to, is not limiting us to consumers.
I don't, because that's
And we
actually
have
ITC's
people who
problem.
know how to play the game.
Yeah.
I will admit to be old enough to know.
Yeah, I don't think they would, because the site that we thought we could use at the end of the line there, which is kind of away from everybody, is actually a piece of acreage that's too small for it, I think, and it has never been mined, so I doubt it can qualify for brownfield money, and it has a ponded set of water on it for wetlands. So I'm just telling you, I will bet you even trying to get an acre of that available would take 1,000 years, because it's not just the utility company or ITC. You actually have to get into Eagle then and get them, and that always gets ugly.
Well, it was wishful.
But we tried, we did try,
yeah.
we tried twice actually, and I just think it's unfortunate on quite the
Yeah,
right side.
exactly. There's other spots, yeah.
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 Were you gonna add to that, Senator? Were you gonna
No,
add to
that's,
that?
yeah, Bob had talked about that once before. Keep it broad, let's talk.
Yeah. We did pick up on that little battery issue, so talked about a little bit about it.
Anything else you wanna ask, Kevin?
No, I thought you brought up a great point about tunnel vision. In this project, I can see where everybody can get tunnel vision, so as many perspectives as we could have.
The problem I've had is there's a lot of tunnels.
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost.
But we all get locked in at certain
Yeah.
things, so to have outside perspective, I don't think is a bad thing.
And I think they're willing to be flexible by doing it a year at a time. I mean, you're gonna know in a year, do we think we got some value out of moving it along and looking at some alternatives, and if there's others we're looking at. I've said this before, and I've said it for the last 2 years at the budget session. There's nothing more important to this township, period, in its future than that project. It either goes, and we're kind of, for lack of a better phrase, in the land of milk and honey,
Yeah.
or you're not gonna like the alternative. Because it's not just that we don't have a business district, it's that 40% of the township is literally owned by the state of Michigan and the county. And so I did this way back on my first budget when your mom was still here. I had her pull up the numbers. Tell me what we get from the state revenue for that 25% of the township that's owned by the state of Michigan. When she got done, I said, I think we're good till about January 5th. I guess we close the doors after that because they aren't helping to run this township. They really aren't. We value the land here because we all want the open spaces, large lot, low density, but it don't pay any bills. And so that's why this project is virtually the de facto future of the township. So,
Well, I will observe that, I know just the value of having the Damascus team is that your experience with just getting the easement and how long that took, and it was like, well, they made it happen.
in a couple of days.
Like this, right? And
It
so,
wasn't just once, the second time,
yeah,
after they approved the easement, they wrote up an easement agreement that was, I think, generated in medieval times. And had nothing to do with what we actually needed. And again, the real estate department said, well, that's the way it's done. I called you, and again, in about 2 days, it's okay.
so I think that experience, expertise, and connections have, great value. So, that's my opinion.
And I'm just gonna ask a question based on, Jim had a wish list and Bob brought something up about how much is state or county park. Right now, I am struggling to get support for our fire department goes to the county parks when they are called.
Yeah.
And we have no contract with the county parks for our fire department to do so. They do not pay 3.5 mils.
They don't pay any bills.
I know, no, they don't pay, that's, I could say it not as nice, okay? But it, I guess that's where, this is not tech park related, but it
Yeah.
definitely is township related, and I think it could also be another great means of income, and, so I have, Dave Martin has been somewhat
Working on it,
helpful,
yeah.
working on it, but it's very arduous and slow, especially once you start talking to the county.
Yeah.
Well, there will be other things that, again,
Sure.
as we speak, I think
Yeah.
the bits and pieces
Oh,
that
yeah,
pop in.
yeah.
Looking in the sewer project, part of this when we started would look like a slam dunk from the first estimate from Commissioner Wright in Genesee, because they gave us an original estimate of about $6 million. And I told George Cullis when we left the meeting, you're gonna see a couple old men doing cartwheels in the parking lot, because I think we got 4 or 5 of them lined up today,
Yeah, that's good.
It was when they made it 156 that it got to be a problem, okay? And part of that is, these parks like Groveland Oaks and the mobile home park and the ORV park, we need them actually to eventually tie into it. So there's gotta be some positioning
Yeah.
and work done on that.
Station,
Cause that's where the bulk of the connections are. We never have envisioned this sewer line being run into the township or going to the half a dozen residents or whatever it is that live up there on Dixie.
Yeah.
It's, many of them are older couples that probably moved to Florida.
Mhm.
And if somebody
Happening.
buys it and makes a business, that's a different thing. But
Yeah.
we didn't wanna have them, they're not gonna make the difference in the project. There was no point in making it sized for taking on a couple dozen homes or whatever. So that all has to come into play too when we look at the
Yeah.
potential for expanding the sewer, and, we got most of the contacts and all that stuff in another big binder, like the one on the batteries, with tons of information in it, so you know.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I I won't be the one living with this, but I highly recommend it. I think it has huge benefit to the township. And I think they have a pretty good proven track record with this as providing benefit. And, as I said, that was done for gratis, really, just to kind of give us a flavor for what you could do. And it impressed the heck out of me, and it did our attorney. So,
Like to under promise and over deliver.
I'm curious, it's a public meeting, so are there any other questions from anybody? I see a lot of fire department people, so I don't think you got a question about the tech part right now, do you?
Maybe for another item, I don't
Yeah,
know.
okay. Okay, well, what would the board like to do? Do you want to mull this over for a while, or do you want to act on it today, or what? I'm asking.
I'm okay with, I would vote to that.
I am too.
When do you want, I'm not supposed to make the motions, when do you want to make it?
Just real quick before we make the motion under Article 4, just to confirm the effective date if we were to make this motion right now.
Good point.
Yeah,
We make
whatever.
that November 21.
It makes us familiar.
Yeah, it's a phrase going around the office, is that a pre-20 problem
Yeah.
or a 21 problem? Really, I don't know, whatever you want, but
I just need.
obviously I'll work with you, Kevin, to get what you need, but
I thought they were all pre-20 problems.
No, I know, that was the one you said you wanted me to stay on the guardian alarm call list, but I assure you I won't be by the 21st.
What date did you guys have in mind of starting?
Probably first or 15, just for billing and so forth, and onboarding me, but we're happy to get started as soon as you guys are, and then didn't know sometimes with different cycles or, when you have it, typically the 1st and 15th is when we start our contracts.
If I could chime in saying, if we did October 1st, and then perhaps we could have a meeting together and kind of come up with the goals and the time frame we present with the board, while you're still here, Robert, so,
That's a good idea.
And then
I
we
am
can do
only
the
3 miles from here though,
Yeah.
so it's not that far.
And then we could do the stakeholder meeting then
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah, that's fine with me if that's what you guys are.
October 1st?
I think that would be good.
Sure.
Give a good few weeks in there before you.
Is that your motion, Jim?
Sure was, what was that?
Oh, I thought you had made the first part, I'm
I will
sorry.
try.
But you would before you go.
I'd like to make a motion that we embrace Damascus Consulting and Development for a term of 1 year at $3,500 per month, term beginning October 1st of this year, to represent the township, as cited in the consulting agreement associated with moving the tech park forward, or whatever other language is really closely similar to that.
Got all that?
Almost there.
It's recorded.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Gina? Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, would you take a roll call?
Teresa Bills.
Yes.
Jim Christopher.
Yes.
Gina Mazzarelli.
Yes.
Robert DePalma.
Yes.
Janelle Keller.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen.
you, everyone. Look forward to working with you formally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, look forward to it.
Thank you. Very nice presentation. You could not have, I could not have explained the project better.
All right.
See, but I think you're not listening, you
Ready to hit the
were.
ground running, see? We're ready, I got the binder and everything, I'm ready to hit the ground running. We're ready to go, don't worry.
That's where the extra binder comes
Yeah, that's right,
if you're
yeah.
wondering.
That's right.
Jens, how do we get a hold of you? Do you have business cards?
Yeah, we'll leave some cards and then, we'll have, you guys circulate contact information.
If you
as well.
forget, I got both your numbers on my cell phone.
The card that's got the cell phone right on it too, feel free to
Thank you.
call or text.
They're very good about
Everyone's
getting back to you.
tethered these days now, right, with the
I
cell phone
apologize,
and
it
stuff.
took me so long last night, I didn't realize it, but I was in meetings all day, and
Oops,
when I got
sorry.
home, I found out both my batteries are dead, that's why I'm nobody's calling me this afternoon.
The cell phone, your cell phone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Absolutely, thank you very much, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda then is the fire chief plans, and, as everybody knows, I'm sure, Chief Mason retired early, and,
So we need to figure out what are we going to do for the fire chief going forward, and how do you wanna handle it, so opening it to discussion to the board.
We've already appointed someone. Interim. What conversations have you had as far as compensation?
Well, I had from a couple of you different ideas, I feel free to
Oh,
voice
no,
what you want.
I don't know, I've not,
I,
I can speak on it if you want.
Okay.
please do.
So I spoke with 2 different fire departments nearby, just to kind of get an idea of what this usually looks like when we're transitioning from one chief to another. You know, kind of the thought is that if you have an assistant fire chief, that person fills in, either moves up or another person is, you know, hired from outside, but that assistant chief would be the acting chief. In situations like ours, where we have someone filling in temporarily, where we are at right now, oftentimes a stipend is paid. But it also kind of depends on the mindset, so it's kind of that, back in the old days, it was you perform and see how it goes, and maybe you'll get the chief job. However, I can tell you just a recent hiring down in Springfield.
The audience?
I'm pretty sure this was how this worked, so, tell me if I'm incorrect, you guys. But I believe that they had, Captain.
Strickland and Captain Hart.
Thank you, that, you were who I was looking for.
He's
Fill
hiding.
in, and stipends were paid?
Yes.
And would you, I'm trying to go off memory, it was 3 and 6?
4 and 7.
4 and 7, okay. So one had a little bit more, $4,000 and $7,000 for the period that person, these individuals had filled in, temporarily. So those were the 2 perspectives that I got from, that was down in Springfield and then over in, Brandon Township for what they had done in the past. Whether that helps you or not, that's the information that I can provide.
Can I ask, how did that number, how'd you land on the number 4 or 7,000?
We did not land on the number the supervisor Monroe did.
Okay.
So the duties were, you know, not perfectly split, but, you know, one captain took over some responsibilities, the other captain took over the rest of them.
Oh, so you had 2 in lieu of having a chief at the time?
Correct, yes.
Okay, I didn't
And
understand.
then, however that compensation was determined, that's what it came to, so. I don't think it was expected, it was in the middle of the meeting.
I believe they took the differential between the chief's pay and the captain's pay and formulated a percentage based on the amount of months.
Okay.
If I understand, supervisor, when I did discuss it with her, but it was a formula based on the 5 or 6 months they were without a chief.
Okay.
Before they hired me, they looked at that number, and one had greater responsibility than the other, so that's why there was such a differential between the 2.
Okay.
So, well, I had, thought of something along these lines, where the pay differential, well, first of all, let's just start with, we obviously were not expecting this until January 31st, so we got bumped a little forward, and, Bob and I talked about this in terms of, I feel, and Bob feels the same, correct me if I'm wrong, that, picking the new chief should be, Kevin Scramlin should be involved in that process of being on the board and voting yes or no, okay? So we were thinking that maybe we could come up with a solution of some sort of compensation, to put us through till December 1st, or till such a time as Kevin is in office, and then we make the decision going forward from that. So basically, the difference in compensation between what Kevin Mason was making and what the captain was making, is about $15,000. So
It's
that's,
19,414.
How much?
19,414.
okay. Well then, my suggestion,
But I think you're, well, I guess it depends on when,
Well, since we are also at the low end and need to reevaluate anyhow,
continue, because I still think we're on track.
okay, so what I was thinking was, we pick a time period to say, all right, so John Williams has been acting as chief, I know since the day Kevin walked out, but his official, retirement date being September 1st, John would be the, you know, if we go from September 1st until, let's say, the end of November, and then Kevin is in office, that's 3 months. We could prorate that difference and then do a stipend of some, you know, we could just do that stipend, whether we choose to do it once a month or choose to do it at the end of the 3-month period. But I do feel strongly that when the board makes the decision, you know, moving forward on the chief, that Kevin Scramlin should be in the supervisor position at that time. Because Kevin is the one who's going to be working with the new chief, not Bob. So,
I agree, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts, Kevin?
No, I appreciate the board saying that, I really do.
Okay.
Um,
I'm pretty flexible at this stage, man.
I wanna be involved in the process, and I wanna have a vote. I mean, we all have to work with them, let's be honest, it's a big hire going forward in this township. And,
It is.
We wanna make sure we get it right.
yep. So that's my suggestion, is we decide upon a stipend amount, we decide whether we wanna do it monthly, we decide, you know, or do we wanna go September, October, November, at the end of the 3 months, it's a lump sum stipend, or do we divide it up, and if so, if that's the way we wanna go, what amount would be appropriate for a stipend? For,
Can I clarify something? Sure. So are you saying that 3 months is the interim period?
3 months would put us until Kevin is on the board, and then at that point, we could look at it and say, are we ready to make a decision? Do we wanna extend the interim period? You know, I mean, I don't wanna say what the board is gonna decide at that point, because I want Kevin to be on the board, so he has input into it as a voting member. Does that make sense?
Oh, I hear what you're saying, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a 90-day.
Sure.
I understand that, okay. And the input comes from both sides,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah. Are there any, I don't wanna leave anybody out, this is open discussion here for us.
So your proposal is that at the end of November, so essentially you're thinking like December board meeting, a decision would be made?
Possibly, yeah.
Could be,
Could be.
Okay.
I mean, when Kevin takes office November 20th.
first.
No, it's December 1st now.
What?
No,
No,
that
it's
starts the
not?
next term.
That's the next term, okay, okay.
November 21st,
Okay.
that's out of it.
Okay.
It's November 20th at noon.
November 20th.
I'll try to do
You got
that.
1 day less. Okay.
Well, I'll be here working.
But I guess I wanna make a decision that gets us through and, allows, you know, us to have a probationary, that's not the word I'm looking for, but, you know, just a time that satisfies this gap until Kevin Scramlin is on the board and has some input into how we take it from there. And so that is November 20th, and maybe that's a discussion we have on November 20th, but that would require a special board meeting, and we know how those things go. But, I mean, I'm open to some thoughts.
Okay, so a couple of, have we started any active search for the chief yet?
No, not to my knowledge.
I am.
We haven't
We haven't made a decision.
We haven't even, yeah, all we did is we took Kevin Mason's recommendation to put John Williams as the interim. We approved that, and that's kind of where we left it.
All right.
Okay.
So,
How's John feel about this?
Well, thank you, that's what,
yeah.
yeah. Does it feel,
How do you feel
well,
about it?
but I just wanna know, I don't wanna leave him feeling like he's hanging, that's not right. And that's kinda how I am feeling with this proposal, so yeah, I don't
Are you-
know. John can speak up, or you have a excellent spokesperson right behind him, John, if you don't wanna talk.
Go ahead.
Matt Covey, Fire Chief, Springfield Township, been in the fire service for 33 years. What we're seeing to do to your fire department is leave it out in the lurch. And right now, you have a man that I've gotten to meet and know. He's a good person. The people that are around him are scared to death about him not being your chief. And I'm speaking from an outsider. I want a great relationship with Groveland Township like we do have today. You get the wrong person from the outside in this community, it can destroy this fire department single-handedly. A couple of your firefighters addressed concerns to me personally about not wanting to be part of this department if he's not your chief. I don't wanna speak for them, but I'm speaking in behalf of them because they're good to me and they're good to you. And they love your community, they love Springfield Township. And I gotta tell you, you got a great man sitting here. I wouldn't wait to make a decision, cause you're gonna put him against the wall, and he's not gonna be your chief. And I'm just speaking out loud because I care about our relationship between the three communities. We got another group of people back here that are here supporting him. My fire department supports this man. That's my voice. Thank you.
Jim?
If I may, first, thank you very much for listening, and reading all my letters. I know they're quite lengthy. But waiting does present another problem. I'm not sure if anybody realizes it, but we have an open position right now. Chief Williams moved from captain.
We understand, John.
Yes.
John?
There you go.
That's another good point, your check mark, but I
When you move from captain to chief, we still have an open full-time spot, and as you figured out, we're short. So waiting for 90 days, that's 90 days, we're already short, and we're already dealing with staffing problems. If we make him chief today, we're able to do that search for that full-timer, which is much easier for us to find a full-timer to fill that spot, and move on, really, than find somebody we want for chief.
I can tell you that we've had nothing but glowing comments from
Right.
firefighters,
It's been
your fire
awesome.
department,
Everything.
other people. I've told John on several occasions since he's taken over that I think he's made very good points on some issues. But I do think the purpose of today is not to shortchange him, but to find out what do we do to fairly compensate him right now as he's acting chief? And what does the board want to do going forward? And I don't think one disadvantages him more or less. I think John's in excellent stead for the position, but, Kevin's even said that he would like to be voting on the board because it's an important thing going forward. And so my purpose today was to let the board voice their opinion on what way they want to go. It's not affecting me. It's the long haul accounts, and I think Kevin made some comments that should be, could we? Yes, we could vote today. I just don't know if that's the right thing, and I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that it's going to be a new supervisor in a fairly short amount of time. And I think, I'd like to think that he thinks I've been pretty open with him, and
Absolutely.
and so if that's his wish, I think that's got to have some value in how you do this. But it's up to like I said, I'm flexible.
Right, so the first issue, let's break these down.
Yeah, we're looking at two things,
Yeah,
right?
so
Yeah.
in terms of compensation, I will throw out there, since if John were to be a fire chief, he's gonna get minimally what Kevin has. Put it in his paycheck for the foreseeable future until the decision is made. And whatever that difference is, I think that's an equitable answer. That would be my suggestion to the board, as the first component of this discussion.
Because he's doing the job, right?
Yeah. So I think that's out there for discussion.
We'll be back to September 1st, sorry. We'll be back paid to September 1st, yeah?
That's the intention, I think, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, yes. So discussion on that point, yay, nay, does it make sense, does it not make sense?
I would support that. I don't have a problem with that, especially since supervisor's gonna walk in on November 20th, making what Bob makes.
Yeah, favorite, what do you think?
I thought something along that, a very similar mindset. I didn't know if it would be every paycheck or like a stipend at the end or monthly or
Why
anything.
should you wait
just
for it?
bump
I
But
wouldn't wanna wait.
that was my exact same thought, is
Yeah.
he's doing the chief's work, so
So
give
if
him the
that's,
extra bump.
if that's appropriate, consider that a motion for me.
And I can second that.
Okay, can we do that? Is that a motion? Say it that way, I think.
Yes, I make a motion that, we increase, Chief Williams's pay commensurate with former Chief Mason's pay to be retroactive to the date that Chief Mason retired, and compensated at every pay period.
Moving forward. Sorry, that would be my comment.
Friendly amendment.
Okay, is
Can you
that?
second that?
there any other questions or comments from the board?
No.
Okay, seeing none, Laura, would you take a roll call on it?
Yep, Janelle Keller? Yes. Teresa Bells?
Yes.
Jim Christopher?
Yes.
Gina Mazzarelli?
Yes.
Robert DePalma?
Because the whole board feels that way and the incumbent supervisor is of that mindset, I will say yes to. It's not to say that I was gonna say no, I just wanted to know that it was unanimous, not just one person. Okay. All right, okay, that takes care of the second item, I guess.
Well-
Oh, no, I'm sorry, the second part of the problem. I didn't mean to jump in, I'm sorry.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Can I ask Jeff a question?
Absolutely.
Why did you throw out the period of a year for interim?
It felt right. I think that gives it enough time to evaluate, a good job, well done.
So you think it's fair on both ends?
Yes.
Because again, you and I have spoken a little bit about, he's gonna be giving some stuff up too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Yeah, not interim, no, as the fire chief. And I discussed this with John.
Okay.
You know, I said, well, what's fair to you, you know, and so, I mean, what happens if he does become the fire chief today, and now he's a chief, and in a year it doesn't work out, well, he understands he would lose his job at that point, and that's how confident he is, and
Well,
we'll do a good job.
Or go back to what he's doing.
Well, we would
Yeah,
have, that
right.
position would be filled, we would have to come up with a whole new full-time position, so he understands that.
Chief, you wanted?
I would just say that every chief is on probation forever. If I don't perform as chief, elected body.
And unlike elected officials,
elected
it ain't
body
every
can
4
get rid of
years,
you
right?
tomorrow. So with obviously with reason, right, just reason, so you are, when you're in that position, you're giving up protections that you have in other parts of the job by becoming that chief. There's very few protected chiefs positions, that are, you know, we're not unionized, we're not all that stuff, you're, really an at-will employee, so.
But yeah, as of now, in the interim role, we can't fill his captain position.
Right.
Because if it doesn't work out with him, we hear from the outside, obviously you would wanna go back to that captain position for now, so.
So if you make the interim for a year, you're saying we can fill a captain position?
No, it's not
We would be able to
interim.
fill a full-time position, whether that be promote somebody or.
Yeah.
Your suggestion is we hire him as chief and give him 1 year,
Yes, ma'am.
and that frees up the position of captain to be filled at
Yes.
this time.
Correct.
And after 1 year, if he's not doing the job,
We reevaluate.
we reevaluate and possibly.
He may lose his employment.
I would just say that you hire him as your chief.
Yeah.
And you as a board
Sure.
have the ability to get rid of him whenever you deem necessary, if he's not doing his job. To tell a man that we're gonna keep you for a year and then
Yes.
decide a year
Yeah.
later,
Yeah.
That's correct.
what
And that's
motivation
where my
does he have to
confusion
run
was in
your
the
meeting?
letter.
Right.
That's just my take.
That was the conversation I had with him.
What Jeff's trying to say
Okay,
basically
I
is,
understand.
the years, traditionally, the fire service, there's a probationary period for an officer or a new firefighter. The chief is always on probation.
Right.
Right.
Okay, other job,
That's just-
sorry.
Wow.
Matt, so, I was just appointed as chief for North Oakland, and part of the thing that we've been going back and forth with is we had a contract. And then I read through the contract and it says the chief's an at-will employee. So I'm assuming that the fire chief here would be an at-will employee. That's a 3-vote dismissal, okay, from this board. So if things go sideways, or something happens, there's malfeasance, whatever, which I highly doubt will ever happen, but this board has the authority to dismiss that chief. As Chief Covey says, every day you're on probation, it is, right, you're out there, and if you make that appointment today, to make John Williams the chief, and at any point in time, if it's 6 months down the road, it's like, this is not happening, 3 votes off that board, and, you know, you have a new chief or an opening, so, it's not fair, to Chief Williams to keep him hanging out there at all. You know, he's put his heart and soul into this, and I think one way or the other should happen. And I appreciate, you know, Kevin wanting to be a part of the process. You know, he's still sitting here today as well. You know, maybe after he's heard all of this, he's got a different opinion or is good with the decision. Put you right on the spot. Well, no, that's fine. welcome to the office.
Yeah.
But it's not fair to John, and it's not fair to the department. And I'm not gonna sit here and, you know, blow sunshine up anybody's skirt. My phone's been blown, as well, depending on the decisions that come out of this board, so, yeah, I think you guys need to do this. If I can compel you to do anything today, it would be, you've done step one, make sure the man's getting paid. And to me, step two is make a motion and appoint him as your chief today.
And I think that is, I'm gonna to just tag off of what you said, we need to provide this service to our community. And it will be well provided under that leadership and also open up again the opportunity to get some more support for the fire.
I'd just like to say, and I know I have no vote today, I will say this, I am behind John. And I like John, I really feel confident John can do this job to a great level. And just what I've seen in the last month or whatever, I like John, and I think John's headed this department in a good direction. So I can't vote, but I fully endorse John today. And I never thought about you guys being hung out for a year. I didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah.
Well, Bob and I talked this morning, when we talked this morning, the issue did come up about if we wait, that leaves that full-time captain's position open, and they, you know, can they swing it for another couple months, and do we even want them to, right? And that was, a sticky point for us as we were talking about this, so.
Hey, bottom line, they still have to serve this community.
Yes, agreed.
I mean, that's the bottom line.
And I definitely want, the whole entire fire, department to feel a sense of security.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, and heard, they have all spoken up on
Yeah.
John's behalf,
That's
and
not
that has
really-
been
John's got, what,
amazing.
26 years of service in there, something
That
like
has
that?
been
I mean,
amazing.
you're
That's
talking
made
about
it
a guy
easy.
who's gave up a lot.
Yeah, he's had glowing recommendations from everybody.
He's highly respected.
There's somebody else.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, board. Temporary Assistant Chief Tim Steele, Groveland County Fire Authority. Interim, yeah. One of the things I wanted to point out is I have applied for the chief's position in Springfield. I applied for the chief's position in Highland Township, and I came in second for both of those positions. What I think is very important to understand is that Groveland Township has a very unique set of circumstances surrounding it. That makes it somewhat different than Highland, different than Springfield, even different than Groveland County Fire Authority. I had talked with John, and I have a lot of respect for John. I think John would make a phenomenal chief in your area. I do understand the concept of going out and wanting to get the best candidate, which is why I've applied for some of these other departments. But what I'll say to that is, you may get a highly qualified, educated individual that has no clue of the nuances of the Groveland Township Fire Department. And as any administrator, that would scare me. Because you've got a guy here that has got the background and grown up in this whole system throughout his career. I came from 21 years in Redford Township. I came out to North Oakland County Fire Authority. I've been in this business 33 years. We were full-time in Redford, we were union, full-time in North Oakland now. And even me considering to apply here, if it were opened up, some of the thoughts that went to my head is, it's such a unique township, that there's so many different things that have to be run differently than what I would know as a full-time department or a paid-on-call department. The eye-opening I got when I came out here, I think you have a very qualified, very unique candidate, John, and I think we really need to consider that. And I think he could probably hit the ground running for you without any further delay and deal with all those nuances that an outside person is gonna take them a couple of years to come to grips with.
I want to say something directly to Janelle. I don't want you to ever feel inhibited or feel like you have to recuse yourself from fire department decisions. I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh, because of Paul.
Yes.
I was
Everything's because of Paul.
Don't I always not? No, and I don't. I mean,
Okay.
admittedly, going into this, my thoughts were, I liked Jeff's idea of the kind of a longer term interim position. I did think that it would benefit Kevin so that he would have the official vote However, I also know that Kevin Mason leaving, Kevin pulled a lot of shifts. Like, really, we're probably down closer to 2 people right now, because, you know, John is now serving as fire chief, which frees up his job, but then also Kevin Mason isn't pulling any of those extra shifts. So we really probably have a little bit more of an issue there. And I didn't really think about it that way, so, yeah, I guess that's where I'm at right now. But yeah, I mean, initially going into this, I would have probably been a bigger proponent of the long-term interim, even if it was like a 5 or 6, like you were talking November. I was thinking more January, just to allow Kevin and John to kind of work alongside, you know, all of us to work alongside each other. So yeah, I mean, I'm open to different ideas, I guess, at this point.
I've got a question for everyone in the room, probably to the firefighters. So, as an outsider, with very little parallels to what you do, and thank you very much, all you folks, as I certainly don't have the stones to do what you guys do.
Thank you.
I appreciate all the comments. If we were to bring an outsider in, and I understand the push to chemistry and everything else, in the absence of that, if that outsider were to bring in some best practices or suggestions, how do we gain that knowledge by not having them in? Please.
Yeah, so I'm an outsider in Springfield Township for 5 months. I spent 33 years in Waterford, which became Waterford Regional Fire Department, largest department of the county. And that was a huge transition in 2012 from being a chief of a small department to all of a sudden now you're this global department right in the county. So I walk into Springfield Township, small veteran community, right? I've lived there about 24 years now. I'm learning every day. I'm learning from them, and then I'm bringing some of my knowledge to them also. But I'm lucky I fit in. And I say that because I could have been the chief that walked in the door and sits in the corner office and no one wants to talk to because they're mad that you didn't bring in the person they wanted to bring in, right? So I was lucky that the arms were opened up and I was able to cross some bridges, and I'm still doing it today. But I think what you have to look at the big picture here is he has the knowledge of this community. An outsider might be the greatest thing on earth that walks in here, but you know what he has? He has me. He has these gentlemen behind him. We're a team. What's lacked up here for a little bit, I hate to say it, is there was a little bit of divide going on. It's gone. We're talking. We're talking about doing joint trainings amongst the 3 departments. We're talking about doing stuff together, working together on a daily basis. Last time we had a PI on Dixie Highway. Who came to help Springfield Township? Groveland. You get the wrong chief in here, those relationships can be gone that fast. It's a family, and as soon as that family steps outside of that family, no one wants to talk to anybody. And I think you see a unique thing happening in the North Chiefs group or the North agencies. We're starting to become a family and relying on each other. We had firefighters that were just in training with this gentleman behind me, Tim, for a week of pump training, but they came back excited about what they learned, and it wasn't uncomfortable. So what I'm saying is, be careful bringing the expert in, because it can be disastrous. I have a big degree, a big book of stuff this big that doesn't make me a great firefighter. It's some knowledge I have. It makes me a better firefighter, a better chief. It's having good people around you, and he has those people here. So he's got Jeff and Jake and some great people to help out. So trust him in what he's helping build. He's already been over my office about this battery plant. Him and I worked on talked about some stuff. He's not sitting back. You know, he's trying to move forward, but he can't move forward as the acting chief. You're a dead duck for the next X amount of months till the new chief comes in. So, and that process isn't gonna be done by December. You're talking February, March at best with holidays. You got Thanksgiving coming up, you got Christmas coming up, New Year's. This process is a 3 or 4 month process. So that's, hopefully that answered your question.
It helped out. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I'm actually one of the guys that actually pull as many shifts as Kevin did, so I actually work here more than I do my full-time on the street. So with that being said, John has not only the wealth experience and everything, backing up what these guys are saying, but he knows every personality on the department, how to motivate them intrinsically and extrinsically. Okay, not only is he advancing the department with the community risk reductions, keeping the ISO on the lower end of the 3, which keeps the insurance down for the citizens and the township and everything else. He already knows how to get the grants and how to get more, save the township money versus taking out of the fund. And he's trying to revenue more things with what we have going on, which is like a tourist town almost. We've got the campgrounds, we got Renfest, we have Holly, with the off-road park, Holly, whatever it's called. So we get Mount Holly. We have also, he's trying to constantly figure out ways to create better community risk reduction plans, if you will. And the fact, like I said, with already knowing the individuals and the personalities and how to motivate them and advance everybody through certain, officer criteria to help serve the township better. So that's the better plan of looking at turnkey Jeep ready to go.
And to add that, not just the chiefs that are local, John being on PSRO, which is the Oakland County EMS oversight board, he talks to every chief in Oakland County essentially. He has those connections, those relationships with well farther reaching than just this local area too. So he gets that outside knowledge perspective, what they're doing for trainings, how they're bettering their departments, because he's always talking to those people. So he has that great connection as well.
That's helpful.
Medical control board.
You might ask, how come he hasn't changed some of these things already? Some of the things he has tried to change, and he was stopped. So, but Kevin did a great thing by working a lot of these shifts. He provided a lot of excellent emergency services around here, and that was very commendable. But it kind of tied his hands a little bit, taking him away from an administrative role. And I think he's ready to step in that role.
Yeah, the last 2-3 months has been phenomenal. I mean, the fact that this Dastardly will fill with plans and try to figure out how to do things better and the revamp policies and embrace this and do that. I mean, the fact that you have all this going, I mean, and to put a delay on that, and leave someone hanging, and I really appreciate what you said with that, with not leaving them hanging, because the fact that you're just killing someone's morale, thinking they're trying to do what's good for the department.
It's everyone's morale.
You're right, exactly, yeah.
I have to go, but I wanted to impart one last thing to you guys that is a very big pet peeve of mine.
There you go, get excited.
So you get a lot of retired chiefs from full-time departments that come out in this area. And what really drives me nuts is when they come out here, they're doing nothing more than trying to land a chief's job in a paid-on-call community and add to the pension that they're getting from their local community that they retired from. It drives me nuts when they come out this way and they sit in their office and they do nothing, because they're not here to impart any knowledge. They're not here to make anything better. They're here to collect another paycheck, and I've seen it 3 times in communities up in these areas in Genesee County. And to that I say, you're doing a disservice to the service that you're supposed to be a part of. You might as well just leave. So, but you're not gonna know that up front when people apply for the job. You're gonna get all the glitz and the glamour and everything they know, and they can change, and then they do nothing. So it's a very sad state of affairs. So I just ask that you be careful and watch out for that. I don't think you'll be able to see it up front, but I have to part ways. Appreciate it, the time to talk, and John's got my 100% support.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So, I think that our consideration of wanting to give the new supervisor the opportunity to vote is really what is, in my opinion, is one of the things that's holding us back from making a decision moving forward. Because if this weren't, if we weren't at this point, I mean, if this happened in January, whatever, I personally feel like, Gina and I spent the whole day with John on Tuesday, going to Frankenmuth to learn, and I mean, I learned a lot, right? And I said to John, my gosh, I learned a lot. He goes, you didn't know this? I'm like, when would I know this? Like, how would I have known this, right? But, you know, things, I see, so many people have said to me, you know, within the community or firefighters, former firefighters, you know, retired chiefs, etc. We're behind John 100%. We're behind John 100%. I wanted to give Kevin a chance to be able to say yes, but short of you being on the board, I can see now that waiting is gonna cause an issue.
I appreciate what you're saying, Teresa, but as I stated, I back John. I really think in my heart of hearts, John's the guy.
So we're not usurping your vote if we make,
No.
No, we need to serve this community.
Yeah, I agree.
So we
I
need to
agree.
make a decision.
and I think that the sooner the decision is made, the sooner they can fill the captain's position. And that's not leaving, you know, I mean, obviously, we have more to do than just that, right? But from our meetings with John, you know, we met with him to go over the budget and our expectations and his expectations, and my heart tells me John wants to succeed. John has what it takes to succeed. John, and 2.5 years ago, John helped me with an issue I had at my dad's house when we were trying to sell it after he passed away. And I mean, John didn't know me other than I'm just a board member, but he went out of his way to help me and hook me up with the person who needed, you know, who could go out there and do what needed to be done. And those are the things that I've noticed, I've seen, I feel, spending the whole day with him. I was, I mean, I say he's a man of few words, but when he does say something, you know, I have a lot of respect for him, and I think he does, I think he will do a good job for us. I just didn't want to take that opportunity away from the incoming supervisor because of the timing of everything. We didn't expect this to happen this soon, right?
No, I respect that. I do.
Okay, again, any other questions? In the audience?
Do I hear a motion?
Well, that's the next question. Is there a motion to be
You want
made
to
by
vote, Jim?
somebody?
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion that we embrace Interim Chief Williams as our chief, effective, you guys help me out on that.
September 1st.
September 1st.
Yep.
2024.
Yep. Well, do we say September 1st, or do we just, we made the motion, we made the first motion to go back and retroactively
I
pay
know.
him as chief from September 1st, so you could say as of today, I mean, it's not like,
Oh, okay.
it's the same amount, we're talking the
Yeah, I
same
get you.
It's
pay.
really just the title change.
It's just a title, that's fine.
Okay,
We
so I
should
think we
warrant
should
the
probably
pay.
make it
Are you
as
doing
of
anything
today.
for the,
Yes.
Effective
Continue.
today.
Yeah.
Too many conversations. Okay, got that?
Yeah,
She's-
editing.
Play that back, will you?
And folks, thank you very much. That really helped me out. Thank you all. We
You
need a
gonna second
second.
it?
Go ahead, I just have some amendments.
Before it's.
No, you can support it and then
I will
I'll.
support that.
At the same pay that Kevin Mason was receiving?
I believe so, yes.
It's all gonna be
I'm asking.
revisited in 3 months anyhow
At the budget.
at the budget, so.
Yeah.
I
Just
think
confirming
I
that
think
we're
that's
staying
fair.
with that
I
pay.
believe the pay goes with the position.
Correct.
Okay, and also I would amend, I would add on to that, confirming that he is an at-will employee. I am not sure what our manual currently stipulates, so we need to make sure that we have him as an at-will employee.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I think we should.
is that agreeable to you,
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Is there, I might have
Yes,
missed it. Did I
there
get
is a second. Yeah, we
Okay,
got a second.
is that agreeable to you? Okay, so are there any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, Laura, can you take a roll call?
Robert DiPalma,
Yes?
Janelle Keller,
Yes?
Teresa Bills,
Yes.
Jim Christopher,
Yes.
Gina Mazzarelli.
Yes.
Okay, all right, 2 down, okay. Somebody ought to cage John on call, let him know.
Time out for a minute. Before you folks tell him he's our chief,
Oh,
I think somebody on the board, Kevin needs to tell him he's our new chief.
Yeah, actually,
Come on,
yeah, he should. So he's He decided to take the fall, because that's how he is.
Yeah.
Yes, let's get it on the phone.
Okay.
Can we do that now?
Yeah.
Let's do that now.
Okay, let's see if he's,
Can we all
I think he's
just
on
yell
the medical call.
congratulations?
Gary, he might be available.
I don't even know.
Where does she go planning this?
Should I be alive?
John, this Kevin Scranton. I just wanted to let you know that they just made you chief, so congratulations. I think everybody here is ecstatic. I'll stop and yell at you later. Congratulations, John.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Done, yeah.
Are all these fire departments covered that are in here? Is there something on?
Can I request that we keep this line of communication going? Please?
Absolutely. I'm super impressed because I've been here since, like prior to 2018, 19, when we were looking at all kinds of things. And I don't remember there being this much camaraderie and cohesiveness between the fire departments. And I'm not privy to a whole lot of everything, but this is amazing because like Jim's question about how's he gonna get best practices, that's super important as an educator. You guys are gonna be like iron sharpening iron, right? So one man sharpens another. And thank you for,
We have the tools to help him, and he has the tools to help us, that's
Yeah.
what we're looking for.
Yep.
And we don't want someone coming into this area that's not gonna be part of the team.
Does that mean you petition to move that best battery?
We're gonna keep it going north. We gotta cross the county line with that thing.
Keep on telling everybody, we didn't ask them.
Teresa said yesterday that we spent time with John at a class, and John said to me, so what was your takeaway? And I said, this board needs an in-service as to what is going on in the fire department.
Yep.
We need to hear from you.
Was that the MTA conference?
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, I would love to see that, all input, both sides.
Okay. Okay. Last item on the agenda is discuss cable manager. I don't know if we're ready for it. I know we got an upcoming session scheduled for the employee manual that we gotta fix some update stuff on. If you want, we can table this till then, but the discussion is Vinny, who I think the world is a victim of his own efficiency. Okay. He is, take care, guys.
Thank you.
Jeff.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you guys all.
yep.
He is a victim of his own efficiency because the pay that was generated before he was here was when Dave's brother was there. And I know nothing about how to make that stuff work for our video stuff. And Dave's brother spent great amounts of time loading it, and it turns out it was like, I think, the equivalent of the Stone Age way of doing everything. Vinny came in, he's very proficient at it, and he does a very good job. And the reality is, part of it is I'm not doing as many videos as I was, and he's so efficient, it's a lot less time. So I think we need to take a look, and that's why I talked to you before about how do we make sure we're fair to Vinny and pay him a good rate for what he's doing, but compensatory with what he actually does, because sometimes there's lags between anything we do with him. And so, just so you have that in your mind, because I've talked to Teresa about this before, when we get to the operations manual meeting, we should probably take it up then, unless somebody has an objection and wants to do it right now. Which I'm kind of feeling we're on a roll here, so let's not muck it up.
We've already discussed it's now, an hourly as opposed to, or is it $10.99?
No, he's
No.
getting $750 a month.
No, I know what it was, yeah.
He's just an
The pay
employee
funds,
now.
but he's an employee now, but yes, it's not, it definitely, and technology's changed greatly.
Yeah,
So
technology's
it does,
changed.
cut down the time. So what we need to be cognizant of is a fair hourly rate then.
I guess, but I mean, in fairness, I don't want Vinny to feel we don't appreciate what he's done, so if you haven't had
Sure.
a chance to talk to him yet, you need to
Well, even he
have some
would have to
discussion
admit
about
he's
it
not
might be
here as
structured
much.
going forward, so.
Right?
So Vinny sent me a list of all the things that he does. And there are things that, you know, he does do that he doesn't do here in the building, right? Brent did the same, he did stuff at his own house and this and that. So, I agree. The amount of, well, I guess it's just his presence here is not as evident as what Brent was here every Wednesday afternoon. But again,
Yes.
Vinny's
Or,
more
or,
efficient.
no, and at every meeting, that's not even necessary now.
Plus,
Well,
it took a
Brent
very
did-
long time
Brent
to
did come
load
to
them.
meetings.
He
Brent-
took a very long time
Brent
to
did
load the
come to
videos. I don't know how he did it, cause I have no idea how any of it
Right.
works. But it had to be archaic, cause Vinny cut that by, I think, 95%. Okay.
So,
And with me, and it was the same way with Brent, you know, you can kinda joke around and say, you're one take pop. I am. I hardly ever do them twice. They come out of the script the way they come. So, it cuts the time down. So if you've got some notes in that, we can do that when we,
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
agreeable, when we do the binder, wherever we maybe put something together before the meeting.
well, definitely,
We'll have a
because, you
chance to
know,
look
it's
at it.
not gonna be necessarily Vinny forever, right?
No.
So I
And
think
it
that now
should
that
be
he's an
based on job
employee,
description.
yeah, now that he's an employee, we need a job description for the position. So he did give me a list, and, I'll share that because, you know, I know he should have submitted it to Janelle, but he submitted it to me. So I'll get that to you. And
Okay.
when we go over the binder, you know, the whole employee manual and stuff, we certainly should be discussing it then.
So is it all right that we agree? Is that agreeable to everybody? We'll table this till we get to that binder, because it kinda ties into that.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think that that'll be a perfect fit. We can continue to talk about it. I would like to see it move to more of an hourly rate personally.
Yeah, and
I
it's
think
not a
that would be warranted.
$75 an hour job.
I would think that I would like to do the same thing with the ordinance officer.
Thank you.
I would like the ordinance officer to move from
And a lot of communities do that.
$833 a month to, you know, an hourly rate, whatever that.
Or per
appropriate-
job.
For inspection.
Or something.
Okay.
I don't know what is appropriate, I have.
Why don't we add that in with the same thing, because it's
Yeah.
all kind of administrative catch-up paperwork, get it done at home. Okay. I just know when we ask people to, I joke and say, we ask for people to do ordinance, you say step forward, everybody goes like.
Right, you almost need somebody who doesn't live in the township, so.
Yeah. You don't care if they hate you.
No, that would be, that.
Well, other than that, isn't it the supervisor's job?
No, it isn't. It may be November 21st, but it's not today.
I guess I heard it. Did you get that, Laura? You got that wrote down?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's it, unless anybody has anything else or any questions from the audience, we can move to adjourn if somebody will.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Support.
Any questions or comments from the board? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're done, folks, thank you.
Thank you.